We are going live. It appears we are live.
So we are live now, Matt and Mike. And when you see this on YouTube, it will be 30-second delayed. So you want to be watching the Zoom. In other words, we're going to be talking to our past selves.
Very, very cool, folks. What I want to do here is, again, this is an opportunity for the audience to ask what I call deep dive questions. The topic of the day for both of you is going to be self-management. It's, I'm going to play kind of host because I do not self-manage. I haven't ever self-managed, whether we had one house on Norris Drive in 2002 or a portfolio of nearly 200. Self-management was never a part of it. Too far away. Don't want to do it. Don't want my tenants to know who I am. Just all of those things. But both of you do it. So please, folks, leave comments and questions about self-management. We're going to riff here for 15 or 20 minutes as you put in your comments. We're going to go somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes. I will pull up your comments in about 20 or 30 minutes where we will start answering those. So Matt, why don't we start with you? You started self-management first. Talk about why you made that decision. Was there ever a decision not to self-manage? What are you thinking, man? Self-management's horrible.
Some days it is. But on the first of the month, when I have no deductions for property management, it's the best day of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years. The goal to self-manage was always based on affordability. In the very beginning, I knew I was going to do the work myself. I needed to learn it. I wanted to understand it. And I couldn't do that if somebody else was doing the work for me. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to understand that way. It was never the goal of never property management. It was certainly not now. I need to learn all the things, learn all the processes, learn what I like to do, learn how I like to do it. The pros and cons to literally everything that I did. Mm-hmm. YouTube University wasn't a thing then.
Yeah.
And so it was really learning and understanding all those things. So I could then someday, potentially, maybe, when I do pass it off to somebody else, I would actually know how to judge them and grade them. Yeah. So this is the way I do it. This is the way I want it done. And then now doing it over 20 years, I realized that there's no property management firm out there that does it as well as I do. So I'm just going to have to open up my own property management firm and be my own biggest customer.
Yeah.
So I created another job for myself. So I had to retire from my previous job, my current job.
So you're going to be still not retired.
Yeah. So what we'll end up doing is that I'll be able to kind of to a certain degree, not nearly as big, obviously. I will be able to, because businesses, and Dion can speak to this even better than I can. Businesses are really it's people, but it's a set of processes. Mm-hmm. And understanding how to manage through those processes and manage people through those processes.
Right.
And so knowing what processes work with 20 years experience, onboarding people, offboarding people, evictions, you name it, we've done it. Mm-hmm. We've seen the worst of the worst and the best of the best. This gives us the opportunity to then essentially hire people into those positions, right, and then manage people as to their execution on the given items, and the given processes that we've already laid out and put in place.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right, Dion, you often go by the lazy landlord. I think your Bigger Pockets thing was lazy. And then I hear you self-manage and I'm like, no, that's those two words don't go together. How can you be lazy and self-manage? I don't get it.
Okay. If I was growing a portfolio of hundreds of units, it would make sense to have a property manager. But with 16 rental units, it takes me about 2 hours a month, counting everything. Like I can't find something that would take more than that.
So no, hold on. 2 hours a month, 16.
Finding the next deal takes more than 2 hours a month.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So the investing is time, because that's the growth, right? Mm-hmm. But at 16, the number of texts, the number of emails, the times I've gone to sign a lease total out over the year were less than 24 hours. Far less. So I buffer it to 2 hours a month. But that's not the reason why.
Okay.
I am very lazy, but if you ask most investors that invest in buy and hold real estate and you said, Why don't you invest in syndications? Why do you keep buying rentals? Most investors would say, I like the control. So why do you self-manage? I like the control. A property owner and a property management company are at odds. The owner doesn't want turnover because it's expensive. The property management company, most of them, part of their money-making business is tenant turnover. We get a full month's rent, half a month's rent. So even just negotiating the renewal for next year's lease is very clinical with most property management companies. Here's the new rent. Hope you like it.
Yeah.
If they even say that, because they want the turnover, because that's part of their business model to make money.
Yeah.
And there's the hidden cost of, if I send my handyman out there, I can say, send me the receipts for what you bought. I know I'm going to pay this amount for the lights or whatever. The property management company is going to send the handyman, going to upcharge for the materials, going to upcharge for the handyman's fee. And there's an analogy I've made with the credit card. I don't know if I'll take like just a quick minute to explain that. I ran a company up to a month ago. And if we sold something for $100,000 and somebody used a credit card to pay for it, we would pay a 3% credit card fee.
Oh, wow.
So we'd lose $3,000 on a $100,000 sale. Not bad. For the convenience of using the credit card, we get $97,000. The credit card company makes their money. But the profit margin for companies isn't 100%.
Yeah.
So if your profit margin was 20%, you sell a $100,000 item, you're going to make 20 grand. That 3% isn't of 20,000, it's of the 100,000. So when people say I have property management, only costs me 10% a month of gross rents, which is 20+% of your profit.
Right.
And so that 3% out of 20,000 would be $3,000, leaving us with 17. We would lose 15% of our profit. That's what's happening with property management. But with a portfolio the size of yours, you have two options. You can have a property management company and you probably, I think you've said 2 to 4 hours a month or somewhere in there, somewhere close to mine, or grow a company like Matt.
Yeah.
You're creating another job. That wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
So someday I might have a property manager and it's going to be one that doesn't charge a fee to place tenants. And it's going to be one that probably doesn't like me because I'm going to want control over too many things that a property owner doesn't usually have. So I don't know that I will ever have property management.
Well, there's a couple of things I just want to highlight, kind of just mean the other side of this. First off, you guys are absolutely right. So I've had property management from day one. The last 7 or 8 years, certainly 7 years, I've spent more than $10,000 a month on property management fee. That just comes off the top, right? And for both of you gentlemen, that's profit, right? It certainly look at it that way. The other thing that you're both are dead on is, every service call, every fee, I'm sure I'm being upcharged. I'm sure there's, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s a month that if I was running the show, they wouldn't be spent probably. Yeah. So, certainly managing your own stuff, nobody will do it like you. I think it's amazing, Dion, you could do it in a couple hours. Matt, you have a portfolio that's what, 6-7x that? How many hours do you spend? And you're doing some turnover. So I'm guessing you're spending a hell of a lot more than 2 hours even a week.
Yeah. So last year, and so typically we're kind of in line with Dion's numbers when we're not doing the level of acquisition that we are.
Yeah, you've had a busy year.
Yeah. So the last 2 years, that was one of the things that we saw the most, was the biggest kind of time explosion for us.
Of course. Yeah.
Was, we did 10 deals last year. We did 7 this year.
Wow.
And so we had, I would say with our, so those 17 deals represented probably 50 units, I would guess, probably 50, 55 units.
Yeah.
And so those 55 units are very busy. It's onboarding, it's offboarding, it's eviction, it's a lot. That's a lot. Right. But we buy when the defense tells us to buy.
Right.
So we bought a lot, but that completely skewed the numbers to the negative. So last year we had probably all totaled, we probably had over 1,000 hours in management.
Okay.
Part-time job.
Yeah.
20 hours, 20 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
So we had a part-time job, onboarding and offboarding and all the crazy stuff that goes with that. This year, we're probably going to have about the same. Next year, it's not going to be anywhere near that. It's
Yeah,
going to be way back down. Cause I look at it. And so we did a review. We did a review with one of the property maintenance guys that I use.
Mhm.
And out of the 121 units,
Mhm.
there are 87 that he's not been to since October.
Which is more standard.
Yes.
You just got heavy lift because of your acquisition spree. Makes
Correct.
total sense.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question I wanted to ask both of you. As you both know, I invest 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
In a market I have never lived in, never spent the night in, didn't know anybody when we started. Both of you, I think all of your units are within hours drive, if not less. Is that fair?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a point, like if you were at 2.5 hours away, would that be too far for you to self-manage?
Yes.
Okay.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some number.
In all honesty, Mike, I would move. That's what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking. I would. I did. So the first place where I started doing properties
Mhm.
was about an hour and 15 minutes from where I live now.
Okay.
I lived about 15 minutes from that place.
Okay.
When I realized that's not my market, I don't want to be there. That's not where I'm going to grow. I've changed markets.
Yeah.
At that time, I was about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I was going to start investing.
Okay.
But the reason I picked that was because A, I wanted to invest there, but B, I was like, yeah, I can totally live there too in one of those few towns.
Nice. Okay.
But that was the flip switch for me, because I didn't when we moved and I had made up my mind that I just wanted to not sell those other property, not continue to invest in that area. The
Mhm.
problem that I had, I couldn't sell the properties.
Yeah.
It was 2011, 2012. I couldn't sell the property. So I
You
was
could have
like,
sold them, but they'd have been upside down.
exactly. Yeah. I'd been writing a check. That would have
Yes,
sucked.
That would have
So,
sucked. Yeah.
so what, and they were still making money. They were just negative on the balance sheet.
Yeah,
So
of course.
what the look was for me was, you know what? I can hire somebody to manage those two properties out there, those 2 3-plexes, and I can build my business out here where I'm going to live.
Makes perfect sense. And Dion, is like, if you were going to look at something 2 or 3 hours away, would it default to, because that doesn't sound lazy to me if you're that far away.
So there's 2 different ways of looking at it.
Mhm.
If I'm investing at a new area, I would want property management boots on the ground.
Okay.
If I'm in an area where I've established tenants, I've established handymen, I use Hemlane, or currently I'm just using the first tier where I can list properties, collect rents, that kind of stuff. But if I was going to move to Thailand and I wanted to invest here, I could use Hemlane to actually go sign leases. To schedule my handyman. Like, so it's got the tiered levels of things I could do to still self-manage. I wouldn't start managing at a distance with no systems or people in place.
Exactly.
Right? And
so, yeah, that's where I thought this first part of the conversation needed to go is self-management works, but there are limitations. I think you have to be close. I think you have to have a network. I think trying to self-manage in another state is a recipe for disaster, my opinion. And yes, you need system and processes. In Hemlane, I just talked to Dana today. It's the different levels and processes, audit trail, collecting, posting. The more systems and processes you can have at your disposal as a new landlord, it helps. And if you're out of state, having that network of other contractors so you don't have to guess is extremely valuable. So folks, again, remember this episode is for you. Deep dive on self-management. Please put in your comments. We will get to them in a minute. I just want to talk to these guys a little bit more to set the stage. Go ahead, Dion.
And if anybody watching wants to try Hemlane out, remember, you can put in 1 rental at a time. You get 20% off. So, I mean,
there you go.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. And in our course, there's a whole videos of Dana doing the day-by-day trial. So enjoy. All right. So when I think about self-management, there's really 3 aspects that a new landlord needs to think about: getting tenants, tenant criteria, collecting money, or not collecting, right? Issuing notices and evictions and all of that, and then repair requests. I think those 3 things we should talk about. Let's talk about tenant selection. We'll go to Dion first. Obviously, use the binder strategy at rent increase, but what do you do when you have a vacant unit? I think you have 2 vacant here recently. Tell us about that experience.
Systems. Make it as simple as possible. Up until I started recently using Hemlane, I was using a cozy.co, which was a Canadian company purchased by apartments.com. to list the property. I wasn't collecting rents or anything on there. I've never cared or asked what anybody makes for income. I know people making millions per year that are late on bills because they're just scatterbrained when it comes to daily finances, but their business is doing great. I know people who have fixed incomes that have 800 credit scores. So I don't ask or care what they make for money, because anytime you require a multiplier of the rent, 2 times 2.5 through whatever your metric is, you eliminate a lot of people who make their money through tips, like bartender, waiter, cosmetologist, people who can have great credit scores but don't have the income.
Interesting. Because let's be very clear. My property manager is 3x. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
So in 10 years now, never one late or missing payment. Not one. Because I've never cared about income. People who work to protect their credit score, and now this is the thing where I'm going to lose a lot of people. 700 period.
Okay.
You show me a 695 with a reason and a good track record. No, it's across the board 700. I want one that you want to keep that high.
Okay.
And I've got Section 8 tenants with an 831 credit score. So it doesn't matter what the background is or what the income is. There are people who understand paying their bills on time, and that's what I want.
So credit is important to you. Number one in income.
Yep.
Wow. I just feel
not even
this
on the
feels
list.
weird for me to say. Credit matters. Get it. Income doesn't matter. That sounds weird coming out of my mouth.
Well, if I had ever had a later missing payment, I would say, well, maybe I should look for people who make more. But
no. Hey, this is your story. I'm just telling you, it feels
I've got
weird to me.
a single mother. This is not a Section 8 tenant. Single mother, 2 kids. Mom lives with her. She's like, I think she's at 19 an hour now. She was at like 14 an hour when she started renting. Pays 5 days early every month.
That's great. Okay.
Like nowhere's near twice what the rent is. Like, I don't know, it's family helping or whatever it is, child support, something. But so,
okay,
and then I go no evictions ever. If somebody had an eviction in 1960, they learned that there's a system to steal money from an owner and to stretch it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are my only 2 criteria. Really, I don't check criminal background. Because in some areas you can't. So I don't recommend doing that.
Okay.
I do buy some places close to schools. And I will say, this is closer than 800 feet to a school. So make sure you're qualified to live here.
Yeah.
Especially if I have tenants with kids, that's where I'll like to do that.
Okay. I like it.
Very simple.
All right. Matt, I'm going to guess, just a wild ass guess, you do care about income.
A little bit.
that did feel weird for me, man. But I get it. It's Dion's story. It's awesome. So what is yours? 2.5, 3?
So I've got a little over 3,000 tenant years under my belt. And I have 9 evictions, and 5 of them were for payment.
Okay.
So
from people who made multiples of your rent.
Yes. Yep. 5. Yep. Well, that's what ended up changing. Was
life happened.
Life happened. Lost jobs. That's what ended up happening. So that's where, for me, I still look at it and say, yes, income is important to me. The other 2 are credit score.
Where are you?
680.
Oh, see, I'm
680.
I'm
and the reason why that I'm 680 is because we do a lot of students.
Yeah, you do roommates, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of students, and because we do students, they don't have the credit history to have 700.
You probably have some applicants that don't have credit history.
We do.
Yeah, it's like does 0 count?
Yep, we do. And in that particular case, that's okay, because I know that they also have no debt.
That's true.
They don't have a car payment.
Yeah.
They don't have any other payments except for student loans. And guess what? They're in school, so they don't have to pay those.
Yeah, there you go.
So in that case, so we're okay with, so believe it or not, having a bad credit score is much worse than having no credit score.
Agreed.
Yep,
Agreed.
just much worse.
Totally agree.
The other thing that we really look for, and this was a new one basically just from 2020 and on, was proof that they paid their landlord the last 3 rents.
Oh yeah, I've done that too.
Because if you do, and we don't believe in the silliness that is a reference call.
Yeah,
we don't believe in that silliness. That is such a junior move. It's not even funny.
I agree.
And so we don't believe in that silliness. And so I just want proof. I wouldn't believe you if we've never met before. I wouldn't believe you if your tongue came notarized. Couldn't believe you.
Your tongue came notarized.
Yeah. And I want 2 forms of ID if you're paying cash.
Yeah.
Like, ain't happening. So I want to see proof that you did it these times.
Okay.
And you get the answer, oh, well, I pay in cash. Yeah. Uh-huh. Sure you do.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, there's a broomstick holding up your headlight. I bet you pay in cash.
Yeah.
Come on. So that's the 3 really easy things that we do is
I
just
like it.
credit 3x income and proof to the landlord that they've paid the last 3.
Dion?
And there's a couple of things that I do from running a company doing interviews.
Hmm.
I'm comfortable with my background going to someone's house, right? I don't recommend everyone do that.
Mm-mm.
But I like to see how they're living in their current place because that tells me how they're going to live in mine. So if you're not comfortable doing that and you meet somewhere for lease signing or when they come to do a walkthrough, look at their car.
Yes.
Yep.
Is there a broom handle holding up the light? Is, every other thing. And it can be something as small as, in this state, having something hanging from your mirror means that this person is willing to break the law because that's actually an illegal thing here.
Mm.
And you can take all kinds of things from the car, the pet hair.
Yeah.
The way that the amount of trash that's in the back seat, all of those things can be used to consider how they're going to treat your property.
Very cool. Well, let's close this out, folks, with my questions. Again, folks, remember, leave comments. I will go to them momentarily. Put in comments. We will ask these guys self-management. So let's talk about just the daily operation, which really for most folks is maintenance request, right? You qualify a tenant, you put them in. Most of the time, you don't really hear from them, pay the rent, move on, especially single family homes. But, occasionally stuff breaks. Whether it's, whatever it is. How does that handle? Do you have a 800 number? Do they have your personal cell? Do you have office hours? How do you handle self-management? Because what's one tenant thinks in an emergency, you may not. So Matt, we'll go to you first this time. How do you handle it?
Yeah. So how we handle it is when any group of tenants move in or any tenant moves in, we set up the address in our phones, mine and Ashley's,
Mhm.
and now property maintenance guy. We
Okay.
set up all of that information where there's the 3 of us, and then any person that's 18 or older in the
Okay.
home,
All right.
they also are on that. So everything is done through that. That way you're not playing telephone, you're not playing
So I missed it. What are you doing? You're setting up a group text
group
or something?
text.
Oh,
Yep.
group text. Got it. Okay.
Cell phone.
Got
So
it. Sorry.
group
I didn't know
text.
what that was. Okay. Got it. No,
Yeah.
anyway, sorry. So you're setting up you said address. So you're setting
Yes.
up a group test for 123 Main Street
Yes.
with the
correct.
7 people in it.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. All right.
Yep. And then everything's through that. That way it's not, oh, did you talk to the landlord on this? Oh, this, because one of the biggest complaints I hear from other landlords is I hear about it from every single one of the kids in the house or every single one of the roommates. I'm like, set up a group text, dummy.
So just every time. So if somebody wants to say they're going to be late or the light bulb broke,
Group
if you
text.
guys want to read group text.
Group text.
Got.
Yep.
Oh, I like
Group
that.
text.
I like that.
Yep.
Okay.
And so that way everybody's always on the same page with exactly what's happening. The maintenance guy also sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can answer back, hey, Kenny, do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, Bob, do you see that?
Right.
And we can also, and sometimes he'll just pick it up and be like, yep, I got this. I'll shoot over there now.
Okay.
Something
Oh,
like that. So
like
it
group
really
text.
creates, this dynamic action.
Mhm.
And from our perspective, I'd say if there's something that we see that's like we'll have one of our PM guys that does work for us go over and check on something that we get the report that it might be a quote unquote like plumbing issue.
Yeah.
He'll go and he'll check on it and be like, oh yeah, that's and throw something together. So I actually have we have a couple boxes with all like the normal tools of the
Yeah.
trade, like my product reviews. They show up and they can always fix that stuff on the spot. If it's something where it's like, you know what, Matt, this is a bigger than a bread box thing, then
Yeah.
instantly he'll just contact he can actually just contact the plumber and get the
Okay.
plumber on site. We're
Okay.
actually upgrading and changing that in Door Loop, the PM system that we use. You can actually take a task that was assigned to you and you can assign it to another vendor. So
Like it.
he'll be able to literally just go, nope, bigger than a bread box, and he'll be able to
Yeah.
click, assign it, and click, and then the other guy will get an email
Yeah.
and text confirmation.
Yeah. You gotta snake the line, or you gotta run a camera down it, or something just
Exactly.
bigger than, it's not
Yeah.
a new floaty in the toilet or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So Dion, how do you do that? Do you do group texts as well, or is there some other way to communicate repairs and all of that?
So I've done group text. I don't make it for everyone. That's a genius move on Matt's part. And I think naming the group text is good too.
Yeah, I thought that was clever.
That's
Yeah.
for
The
you.
thing I would run into is there are people who avoid group texts and don't have
Yes.
an iPhone, and then you have that conflict there, and sometimes you get a text back. So what I do is when I first meet the tenant, whether it's I am purchasing a property with tenants in place, or I'm placing a tenant, we have the educational conversation of this is what constitutes a phone call. The 3 words. If the conversation is going to have fire, flood, or blood anywhere in the sentence,
Yes.
you just call me.
Call me.
Maybe after you call 911. Like,
Yeah,
I can be the
exactly.
second phone call.
Yeah,
right?
it's okay if I'm second. Yeah.
Right. But everything else should be done through email. Unless you're comfortable with text, you can text me. If they text me and it's something that I think will be in a future conversation, possibly in court, I move it back to email.
Yeah.
Because our state texts are not admissible.
Okay.
Emails are. So I want to make sure that those kind of communications happen through email. Most conversations, like 80+%, are done through text.
Yeah.
And very rarely. So when I first meet a tenant, I only give them my information. They're going to contact me for any problems because I want to educate them on what is a service call, what is something to let us know in an email to add to a future service call. You know, if there's a drawer that doesn't close all the way, we're not going to send someone out at 10 o'clock at night. But the next time they're out there for something, they're going to fix that drawer.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of education happens through me until they've interacted with my handyman maybe once or twice.
Okay.
Then I have a conversation with the 3 of us saying, everything that's less than a couple $100, maybe 3 or 4, the handyman here's 400 or 500, but the tenant here's a couple $100. You just call the handyman, they'll fix it and bill me. And that way, when the handyman does it, he knows his schedule. He knows when he's going to be in that area, when, if it's an emergency or not. I just get an email from the handyman, did this, here's the pictures, cost this much.
Got it.
Develop the relationship with your handyman before you, handy people, women, doesn't matter, before you give them that kind of control.
For sure.
But I'm trying to think of when the last time I got involved in anything. Months.
Been a while.
Months.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's start going to questions, folks. Again, remember, this is for you. I'm going to scroll through the texts or text comments and pull out the questions. Let me just give a second here. So, Tom, how you doing? Let me see. I've been talking to Housing Authority, waiting on their email covering all the requirements and inspection process. I'm motivated to help others, but not for the headache. Matt, you've had some fun with Section 8 recently. Why don't you kind of talk about the good and the bad?
The good is the checks on the first every month,
Or early.
or never early.
Oh, I get mine. A day
Not for
early.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
mine's
for me.
early.
Mine are always on the first, never early. And that's the rest of the good.
That's the only good.
The rest of it, and again, admittedly, it's my first year, so I'm still learning. I'm not a seasoned veteran like you guys are with Section 8 and housing. They fail it for the slightest of things, and that's fine. We address them quickly. We let them know that it's been taken care of. The biggest challenge that we've had is that, and I will say this, every housing authority tenant that we've got was inherited.
Yeah.
So there is no way on God's green earth that they pass Dion's criteria, Mike's criteria, or my criteria.
Right.
There is no freaking way. And so I have told housing, we're going to make some adjustment on these tenants, but I am not going to take the unit away from the program.
Of course. Okay. I like that.
So, and they've been like, okay, that's great news. And so we're doing it with somebody now that thought that they were being punitive and calling Section 8 against me. We had received the entire list. We got the entire list done within one day with one person. It wasn't a big list. And then we found out that it was a 3-bedroom unit and they had a 1-bedroom voucher. And so they're getting a love note later on this week saying, you have a 1-bedroom voucher, it's a 3-bedroom unit, you'll need to find another place.
There you go. Dion, you've done a lot of Section 8. What have been your trials, tribulations with the program?
A couple things Matt might not have considered.
Go ahead.
Rent comes in on the first, that's a bonus, benefit,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay. It's a part of a diversification strategy, which has your tenants from different sources paying you. You have that inspector that seems to be a problem until you get everything certified. You have a second set of eyes inspecting your property, which also protects you in insurance claim. You have a low turnover rate. I have Section 8 tenants that in this one that have been there. They were there 26 years when I bought the place, still there, right?
Yeah.
So to that end, though, that was one of the things I actually talked to that inspector about, and to the housing authority. The place was disgusting. It was disgusting. The place.
So you can have a bad tenant that's Section 8 and a bad tenant that's not.
Absolutely. But here's the way that I view, just being, quite frank about it. I think that the way that I view Section 8 is I'm participating in a program, and that you're not there just to bust my balls about being a landlord. You're there to provide we're in partnership, providing housing for a service for payment. And I don't want to see reports where all of these issues clearly pre-existed my ownership of the building, number one. And number two, and most importantly, it was not one note was left in there about how there was cat feces all over the apartment, about how there was cat barf all over the apartment. There was none of that stuff in there. Right. So if I'm getting the bonus of having a third party see my unit, it's got to cut both ways.
So two things really quick to answer Tom's question. And each housing authority is different.
Absolutely.
So I've got a county I won't own Section 8 in. I invest in 2. Pierce County, Washington, I want to flip them off. Thurston County, Washington, gonna go give them a hug. Like, I want all my units there in Section 8. They're just great to work with. So, not to call them out by name, but there's their names.
I'm not editing that out. It's not on record now.
Tom, you are waiting for a list they're probably not going to provide you. They're probably not organized to have a list for their inspector to go say, go check for these things. The inspector knows to come and verify that each bedroom qualifies as a bedroom, that every door and window operates safely, every light turns on and off, every safety thing's been looked at. That's not written down anywhere. That's just something they're going to check for.
Yeah, the other things you can look at, again, every window must open. If there's bars, they must have quick release. Little things like cracked tile, carpet coming up at the edges. I mean, it could be.
That list is written down. You can find it on housing.gov. You can find it.
But their housing authority is not going to have it and not going to send it to them. So
true. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that you can go and get that document, because that's the document that all the housing authorities use, but they don't have their own copy. It's from housing.
So there's the solution for Tom. Don't wait for them to send an email.
Go get it.
Go get it. Yep. Right. And when you do have your place inspected, they can give you this list of things that you need to fix. Instead of scheduling a second follow-up point that, schedule that works with that inspector's schedule, ask if you can send an email of it with a video of those repairs being made to save you the time.
Yeah, that's something that my team has added in the last 18 months or so. 2 years ago, they wouldn't accept it, but given COVID and all these other things, that's actually an improvement. Sometimes a picture is good enough. Sometimes a 5-second video is really streamed. Because again, why does that matter? Sometimes they're holding up your check until you've done the repairs. So
my experience is they've always held up the check.
That's
just my experience.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. You will build your reputation at the housing authority, and then they will put you on the good list first, assuming you're on the naughty list. It's okay. It'll happen. All right. So a lot of questions about taxes. So guys, we'll go to Dion first on this one. How do you prepare for your taxes? How do you take them to your accountant? You got a spreadsheet system? How do you track everything?
So I'll break this down as simple as possible. With 16 rental units, here's what my system looks like. 1 checking account, 1 saving account, 1 credit card that I pay off daily, just used for cash back, 1 Excel spreadsheet that I share with anybody who emails me, a kindergarten version of it, where there's a tab for income and a tab for expenses, and broken down into the columns that my CPA said I needed to have, which I'll share with you if you email me. I send that to the CPA. I keep all my receipts in a box. I have most of them scanned into my email in case I'm somewhere else. I didn't realize that this was a way to store, but it was just because I thought I might be in Thailand. I needed to see the receipt. Keep all the receipts. I was audited. It took about 4 months, and that was enough. A spreadsheet with the information. They asked for bank records for a certain month to line receipts up with that or whatever. All that's electronic now. 20, 30 years ago, it was probably hard to do yourself. Now it's like, here's my bank printout. Here's my credit card payment. Here's my spreadsheet I send to the CPA. 4-month review that I had probably 3 phone calls during.
Yeah, I had a 13-month detailed audit. No fun, but yeah, essentially it's the same. Right. There's a work there. For me, it's I have a worksheet. Basically, folks, there's something called the Schedule E that landlords use for your taxes. That has like 15 or 16 lines on it. Guess what's on my spreadsheet? 15 or 16 lines by month with a total. Yeah, that's how I do it. So I do it by property as opposed to one long list. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, by property, but that's what the property management system's for.
It's helping you
Yep.
now, right?
Yeah,
Have you had
that's-
that since day one, or when did you switch?
Oh, no. That was just, we were Excel spreadsheet set up just like Dion for
Yeah.
20 years. It was a credit card, a checking account, a savings
Yep.
account. That was it.
Done. Yeah, and then
Yep.
you'll learn, hey, what gets capitalized versus not. It's just all
Yep.
just all things you learn. But
Yeah.
it
So
is
we would
not that hard.
provide that. We would provide to the CPA every year. Now
Yep.
we're working with an EA, and now we can actually do the snapshot reports
Yep.
from the property management system, which is just awesome.
Cool. Brett's asking about LVP floors. Matt, do you have a video on your channel that we just point him to?
We do, yeah. American Flooring Corporation out of Vegas.
Okay.
They end up being about $1 to $1.50 a square foot less, because they literally go manufacture it themselves overseas, ships over in container, literally gets dropped off in the container into their warehouse. That's the product that's in there. And then it's just a matter of them taking it off that pallet and putting it on a new pallet and shipping it to you. So there's basically no overhead with the warehouse. There's no storefront, there's no retail, there's nothing. So they do really well, just basically keeping their costs really low. So American Flooring Corporation, let them know the Lumberjack sent you, and they usually do like little packages where they'll send you like 5 or 6 samples for free.
Cool. Corey Brunson's basically, I hear this a lot, versions of this. Corey is saying, hey, all the competent property managers now are only doing short-term rentals. I hear other versions of this, kind of like Matt's story. Everybody in my market sucks. I got to do it myself. What do you think on that, Matt? We'll go to you first.
I mean, I've met them. What's your process for this? Hate that. What's your process for this? Yep, that's stupid. What's your process for this? Yep, I can see why you guys get screwed. What's your process for this? Yeah, what's your turnover rate for landlords?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's like 20 and 25%. It's horrible. It's like, that means you're bad at this, and it means the other 75% are too lazy to go find somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was just process. Many of these guys that do this, I love what you did, Mike, because the absolute criteria for me, even having a conversation with a PM, is that they own property themselves.
Amen to that. Oh,
because it's the same requirement that I have of my attorney.
Yeah,
exactly. I looked for an attorney that owned property himself. Why? Because I got his lease for free. Number 2 is, if he can't defend his lease in court, he's so fired. So fired.
Yeah,
you wrote the lease. You're an attorney. How could it not be the best one out there? You're a landlord.
Yeah, I like
so it. Those are 2 quick tips of how to do that. And yeah, I think that too many people get into the PM business because it's zero financial lift whatsoever.
For me, again, I fired 5 PMs in 5 years, maybe 4.5 years. For me, the biggest red flag is it was, and these idiots would say this to me. Oh, I make my money over here. I do PM to keep the lights on. I'm like, really? I'm the keep the lights on business?
Awesome. That's
yeah, great. So when you get busy over there, I didn't like that at all. Yeah. So we'll give this question from Tom to Dion. Hey, I'm passionate about positive about self-management. Going to save the 10%. Going to put it towards my next purchase. Awesome. But I think I should use Hemlane to help for management discipline. So Dion, you've moved to Hemlane. What do you think of Tom's question/point?
I think it's a really good move, depending on how hands-off you want to be. They have 3 tiers. And I'm doing a video on this pretty soon. I'm going to do a review of Hemlane. I even let Dana know. I'm very sorry. I have a critique.
Yeah, good.
The critique is you have a branding issue. People don't know what Hemlane does.
Yeah.
Like, I talked to Becky that made the Lady Landlord group, right?
Yeah.
And she's interviewed Dana. No clue what Hemlane does.
Oh, wow.
We have 3 tiers. The first tier is really basic. You can post your rentals on, I think it's 29 or 30 platforms. You can collect rents. They have one where you can schedule your handyman repairs through it, or you can have like an Angie's List type of contractors that they will get to do your jobs.
Yep.
Or you can have the 3rd tier where they will send a leasing agent out. So you don't even have to go and sign the lease with the people.
Yeah.
So I think the first tier is enough for most people, unless you're literally in another country.
Yeah.
Or you just have no people skills and don't want to go talk to them, but want to self-manage, maybe then the higher tier.
Yeah. For me, tier one's an absolute. And in tier two is, yeah, if you're going to be out of state or you like me, I had a job where I was literally out of the country 3 weeks a month. Yeah. Step up. So this one's actually art addressed to Dion, but we're going to ask this of Matt because he's got a bigger, longer list. So Matt, what's the most complicated, difficult thing you've experienced as a self-manager? Currently own a fourplex and tenant just flooded a unit. What's kind of
the one below it?
Yeah, exactly. Was it theirs or the one below it? So what's kind of some of the crazy stories you've seen?
Oh, dear God. Yeah. I posted it on my channel. It's a 1.5 minute long video.
I remember that one.
That's me walking up the stairs into the unit. They
I
took the hammer to the original 1930s door and the glass. They took a hammer to the refrigerator. They broke off every cabinet, every cabinet door. They used the toilet for 2 weeks and didn't flush. They used a hammer on the base of the bathtub. They broke the porcelain sink.
So they were destructive on purpose.
They broke out every window that I had in the place and ripped the sashes out. So I couldn't even just replace the glass. I had to replace the entire window frame and redo everything. That was the toughest one. And again, inherited tenant, not one of mine, inherited tenant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the toughest.
So Dion, you obviously have no tough tenant stories, or do you?
I'm glad you switched that one over to Matt because my very first tenant has been my only problem. For two reasons. One, I try to be really nice and get along with my tenants. The binder strategy works. And most of the people who know me understand that prison is my retirement plan. It's like the ultimate house hack. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. If they do something bad, I don't, But my very first tenant moved out of the house, didn't pay the rent, rented the house to someone else, collected the rent, had built half a wall, painted half a room. And it was because I had no screening in place whatsoever.
Yeah.
That first tenant, I wasn't educated. I had no lease. It was based on a handshake. Figured I'm going to rent to a friend because who can trust a stranger?
Yeah, of course.
So the mistakes were all mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had fires. I've had floods. I have the hammer story, which was a sublet tenant. I mean, it happens. There are bad people everywhere. Sure. That's why there's rule number 5, right? You'll learn and move on. You just try not to repeat those mistakes. So it happens. There's people protecting Matt. They don't want to have Dion bully you about retirement. So you have some fans, Matt.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Alyssa in the house. I self-manage from 750 miles away.
That's right, Alyssa. You tell them.
Alyssa, you need to be on this channel because that sounds crazy to me. But great tenants and system process, awesome handyman. So Alyssa, I'd love to hear more about that. I'd love to interview you on my channel and get that story. It's hard to do. I'm curious. Did you live there before? Did you move? I mean, because really it's the network.
It was Montana to Utah. She actually did an hour-long interview on my channel last week.
That's awesome.
She's awesome.
See, I guess. So she did live there. She set it up and then she moved.
She did.
See, that's kind of cheating.
It's not cheating. She's still managing them.
But okay, you're right. That counts. But a lot of people I'm sitting in Seattle. I'm sitting in Mountain View. I'm going to buy in Ohio. They've never been to Ohio. They don't know anybody in Ohio.
Yes.
That was what we talked about earlier, is if you know it and you get your systems in place and then you move away.
Yes.
Right.
Alyssa,
but smart from the perspective where she got that, she did that, she set that up. And then she said, hey, for these reasons, we're moving to Utah. They moved to Utah and she's a genius. She's dialed in.
Yeah. I would love to interview Alyssa. Congratulations. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Great work. Mike, damn, I'm late. It's okay. It's recorded. Johnny's in the house. How would you go about self-management from a distance? I know people that do it and love control. 2.5 hours away. Wow. So I'm just trying to think, right? So that's me, right? My market's 2.5 hours away, one way.
Right.
I've been there now 20 some years. I have a phone full of contacts there. I wouldn't do. Maybe I'm spoiled. I wouldn't want to. I don't want the headache.
Well, the model works for you now. You have a model that works. And so I think that I don't see you ever self-managing.
No, I don't like people that much.
No way. Yeah. But even then, Mike, I think based on what your job was,
Yeah, it
based
wasn't
on
an
where you
option.
were, no, it's you, that's why, I mean, you are the absolute case study for why you use a PM.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, Dion, let's just pretend for a minute you were going to do in a market 2.5 hours away. What would you do different, if anything, or would that just be a non-starter for you?
No, I could do it. I could go and invest 1,000 miles away. I would dedicate the time, like you say.
Learn the
your butt on a
market.
plane.
Yeah, get your
Go
butt on
there.
the plane.
Get into the local REI meetups, get into the Facebook groups, figure out who the players are.
It's kind of like Alyssa, right? You've got it. It works if you spend the time in the market, invest the time, meet the people, know, and then leave. You can't go to Thailand and then suddenly I'm going to invest in Nashville, Tennessee. That's not going to work. Yeah. So shout out.
And
Alyssa.
Dion can do that because like driving 1,000 miles to him is like going to the corner store.
Yes, I can go to the gas station.
But he's
Go
the
to
man with
Arizona
that
for
stuff.
lunch.
He's like, yeah, come out and visit. I was like, Dion, it's 2,000 miles away. Yeah, I'll probably,
I'll be there in a couple of days. Yeah.
I'd have been there already, but you said we were going to meet in Vegas. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
There you
absolutely.
go. So, Michelle, is this question's for you, Dion? How do you validate they can afford rents? Because again, you said you don't look. Do you ask them? Do you look at payment stubs? I mean, you got to look
No.
at something.
look at the credit score.
Look at
If their credit score is above 700, they're
So
going to
I could
protect
come
the
to you
understand money.
unemployed.
Unemployed. I have unemployed tenants.
All right.
Don't have a job.
I would not do that, folks. But hey, that question was for me.
I'm making a prediction here, and I love you, Dion. You're gonna get got.
You're gonna get got. Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. So you've been got, you said 5
Absolutely.
times with people
Yep.
who have multiples of the rent because situations change.
Yeah.
People don't let situations change when they've worked hard to get their credit score up. And I love the question. The follow-up question is, well, why wouldn't they just buy a house? Because it takes an income requirement to buy a house. My tenants
Exactly.
don't move.
Right.
They have,
So, and
Go ahead.
700 is the number for you.
yes,
700.
I think I have once or twice with a good story or whatever, but I have a lot of inherited tenants too, where I don't even know what their credit score is or their income. Don't care.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. Be interesting to see what you guys find out. Question. I found out today my tenant applied for rental assistance. They missed their first rent. Should I go ahead and apply for eviction or work with the tenant? The wife lost her job 2 months ago.
I
We'll go
can
to you.
take that if you want.
Yeah, go for it, Matt.
I would contact the tenant, let them know that you're going to work with them through the process, but that you are going to post paper.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it'd be in today's world that rental assistance is the key word.
Well,
Because
you have
that wasn't a thing.
the reason that you post paper
Mhm.
is because your clock starts ticking when you post paper.
Correct.
Number one. Number two, that is the order in which most of these assistant programs handle things.
Exactly.
Have you been served eviction paperwork yet?
You
The
jump
answer
to
for
the front
them,
of the line.
yes.
Yeah.
Front of the line. So
Yeah.
I would tell them, and I've done this. I have actually had the conversation when I said, I'm really sorry to hear that. Again, just so you know, the goal is not to get you out. The goal is to actually work with them to get things made right. So that being said, here's what I'm going to do. Part of our process is we have to post that paperwork on your door. That way you've been served a copy of it. We're going to follow that process, but I'll still always answer your calls. I'll still fix anything you need fixed.
Of course.
Nothing changes. And just know that I'm going to be working with them because they're going to come to me for a ledger.
Of course.
And when they come to me for the ledger, I will release to them the ledger. I will CC you on the email so you know they have it.
Yep.
That way you can start harassing them on the daily about
Perfect.
getting it paid.
Yeah. We do. Yeah. Once you have to, in my world, one of the things you can never change for me, it's tenant selection we talked about, but also the process for payment. There are no exceptions. Post all the time. It's otherwise I get, you can be called for, whatever biases or whatever. Nope. Everybody's treated the same. Dion, did you want to say something or we're good?
Well, I had very similar. You want to post, you
Yep.
want to start the process, but I asked to be included in the conversation with the place early on. So I've had tenants during like early 2021 that got 2 months covered based on they weren't falling behind yet, but they were going to, and I had to talk with the agency and say, yes, if their rent's not on time, they're getting evicted. Like I had to send an email saying that's my policy across the board, which probably did the same thing of putting them to the front of the line.
Yeah, exactly. So there's comments about group texts. Again, keep them so you can have them whenever you need them. You do need to know your local laws because, again, Dion, you can't use them in Seattle. You got to move it to email, but learn that.
Yeah, we use that only from a notification perspective, and then just like Dion, we'll go over to email. Hey, can I, well, we have everybody's email. That's one of the things that we get on their app is their email address and their cell phone number. So we have everything queued up.
Okay, I'm just scrolling down, getting questions. Section 8 question, does it cover your tenants' utilities and what left goes to landlord for rent? Nope, does not. At least not in my state. I don't know of any.
Not here either.
What was the question? I missed it.
Section 8 cover utilities.
And so in my state, it can.
Okay.
It affects the rate upwards, but we actually, we were in full experimental mode this last year. We tried it.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge loss. We will
Yeah.
not ever do it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Go ahead.
So an absolutely hypothetical
Sure.
example.
I don't believe
The tenant asked if their pet fee and their water bill could be rolled into the rent because the counselor suggested if my rent was more and I didn't charge those fees, they would pay that amount. So they're not paying for it hypothetically. My friend, I'm asking for a friend, saying for a friend. So the rent's higher, but they're not paying for the utilities.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah, honestly, a hard pass for us. I'm data driven. So
hard
I'll
pass,
try
yeah.
anything once. We tried it. It did not work. And it didn't work in one case. It didn't work in 9 cases. No, that is not the way we do business. We never had done it before, but in the interest of continuing to push the envelope and find maybe a better way of doing things, hey, we'll do it. Small data set. The data set says I'm a moron and we're not going to ever do that again.
We're not doing that again. I've learned my lesson. Move on.
There's the numbers. The numbers were
Rule
like
number 5.
you're an idiot.
Yeah, rule number 5, learn and move on. So we'll go to Dion first on this one. Do you think they're like a newbie investor who maybe their long-term plan is to have property management? That's their long-term vision. But do you think there are priceless lessons to be learned by managing the first 2, 3, or 4, Dion?
I think it's the way Matt was doing it. Matt was self-managing to learn how to do it. I think you definitely learn things to know what seems fair and reasonable. And it's probably not going to be what you expect. If a property manager sends somebody out to a property to change a light bulb, it should be at least $35 to $50 for a light bulb. Because if you could reach it, the tenant would be doing it. So you're bringing out a ladder. You have travel time. You have the expense of the light, but you're paying a person their time to get all the way out there, L&I, taxes on their wages. So when you switch from, I can do this myself, drive out there and put in a $5 LED light on the exterior, or pay $50 for the property management to do it, that's a fair price.
Yeah.
You have to see all that's wrapped up in that.
Yeah, the full cost, exactly. Dion, we have a request for your email address. Do you feel like sharing it here, or do you want to put it in the comments?
I will put it in the comments.
So Patty, he's going to put it in the comments for you. What are some of the things self-managing landlords would only know after they acquire a property and start landlording? Matt, you got some thoughts on that?
You have a garbage tenant. I do the inspection, I do the walkthrough. So there's never any surprises that way. They can be the nicest before I buy the property. And then afterwards, they're just like, here's my list of 10 things. And I was like, well, when we talked before, you said everything was great.
Yeah.
It's like, these are the 10 things that don't work. And so it can be bad tenant and bad landlord, only bad landlord, or only bad tenant. It can be any one of the 3. And so those are the things that you uncover, because the rest of the stuff kind of sits there as it should. Yeah. It is, if you're uncovering things like that are maintenance things, then you missed them in inspection, you weren't thorough. You didn't camera the line. Like, how often do we hear that, right?
Yes.
You didn't camera the line, and that's like $8,000.
Yep.
Camera the line for $200 during the inspection. Don't be cheap. You're making a massive investment, the biggest in your life.
I have made that mistake. Yeah.
So that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think it's the stuff that you uncover are things where the tenant isn't who they say they are, and the landlord wasn't who they say they were. Yeah. I can promise you this: if they're selling, almost always it's one or the other. The landlord was off or the tenant was off. When they're selling, it's one of the two.
Yeah. What I would tell someone is a new landlord is it's very rarely about the building. The house is an inanimate object. It is there. It is there. It's
Yep.
the people, because you're in the people business now. You've signed up for that. And then around people is process.
Yeah.
It's people and process that will cause most of your headaches. That's what I would tell someone. Dion?
So you learn two things when you become a landlord and you start managing your own properties. The first one is people suck.
Yes.
Even
People
good people suck.
Suck. Yes.
So put everything in writing, because while you're getting along, you can put it in writing. When there's a disagreement, you can't add it to the writing. And then, Mike, you said this, it's people and processes. So for me, it's the 1-100 rule.
Mhm.
And I probably heard this on the Bigger Pockets episode, so I want to give them credit for this. Treat your tenants, no matter how many you have, like you only have one.
Yes.
And treat your properties, no matter how many you have, like you have 100.
Ooh,
Have
I
a
like that.
system to run the properties, but treat your tenant like you only have one.
I like that. I like that. This was probably for Matt. Let's assume you have, this is for all three of us, really. You have a tenant living, let's call it a house. And you're, I don't know, let's see. You're doing some kind of rehab or addition to the house while the tenants are there. Do you give them a discount on rent or a combination, or you just wait till it's vacant? Matt?
I wait till, I don't do construction when people are living there. Mm-mm.
Yeah, vacant. I don't need that.
Unless there's something that they say, hey, we'd really love, so we have a house that was 2 beds upstairs, 1 bed downstairs. And they said, we really would like the other child up with us. And I said, okay. We had the room to do that because there was a den.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I said to them, I said, okay, I'll do that. And we actually, when we talked about it, I said, okay, we can do that. And I think in this particular case, they were such a good tenant, we took on the cost.
Yeah.
We were just like, we'll take care of it. It was a couple
Yeah.
thousand.
So generally speaking, I wouldn't do any major construction with people living there. I might, if it's something bad that had to happen, I'd put them in a hotel. I don't want the extra risk. For example, sometimes we've had to replace carpet when tenants have been there forever. Like I have tenants in units for 20 years. Carpet lasts 8 to 10. It's a pain in the ass to remove carpet when people are there. I've actually done, hey, can you, let's make a deal. I'm going to replace your carpet, but can you live with your, go stay with your mom and dad for the weekend or something? You got to be able to work on these things. Yeah. My general advice is wait for turnover.
Yes.
Question. I have a tenant that does construction. I gave him a $500 discount, but he fixes everything that breaks. They pay on time. I'm afraid to raise rents because it seems valuable to keep him. Advice. We'll go to you first, Dion.
Try to keep it separate. I have a tenant that's an electrician, like a licensed can do everything electrician. So I get some emails from him talking about the shoddy job my electrician did when it went to his unit to fix something.
Yeah.
Separate that stuff.
Yeah.
Insurance becomes a thing, and everything is great right now while everybody's getting along.
Yeah,
but in the
man.
future, when something goes wrong and they can reference 4 years ago, you remember when I did that thing and I went up on the ladder or whatever? I don't want to be in that position.
Yep.
I think at $500, you're overpaying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds
I don't
like
know what
a
the
lot.
rents are, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing. That's why I said I'm
Maybe.
guessing he's overpaying.
Maybe it's Manhattan. It's $5,000. I don't know. But
I
yeah,
doubt it.
500 seems like a hell of a discount.
It's way too much.
That's a lot of broken stuff.
It's way too much.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think it's way too much.
In instances where there's major repairs, how do you go about collecting damages straight to collections? What's your success rate in collecting after they've moved out, kicked out? I'll probably have to go to Matt on this one. I don't know that Dion's had that bad experience.
Just the
I
one.
missed the first part of it.
Basically, you have a tenant that did a bunch of damage. It was their damage, not yours. You
Yeah.
now kicked them out. There's
Yeah.
a $10,000 bill. Do you bother with collections?
Small
Small claims court, stuff like that.
claims court, no. Collections, yes.
Okay.
So I'll call a collection company and say, is this debt that you want?
So I have that as well. Every time we file an eviction and it goes through, we end up with a judgment. We hand it over to a collection agency. They collect 50%. I get 50%. But every year or so, an extra $1,000 shows up from that. It's
Yep.
not a very high rate though.
No. Mm-mm.
No, it's very low. But it's funny.
me-
Somebody's going to buy a home like 2 years ago. They ended up paying it all off because we had a judgment on the record. Sorry.
That's the part that matters. Get it on record. Get it on their record.
Yep.
Because if they do something like fix their life and want to go buy something, then you're going to be compensated. And you're also putting something on their record that a future landlord can see.
That's more why I do it.
That's why I do it too.
I'm more do it for the future guy, because I can take the $1,000 or $2,000 hit. The
next
guy
guy.
who owns one building cannot.
Yeah. What did you do, Matt, with a tenant that destroyed everything with the hammer? Did you call the cops, press charges, file insurance claim, or just eat it?
Yes.
Yes.
All of them. Yeah. So we have up to a year to do all the things that we need to do.
Mhm.
We finished the work. We got a new tenant in there, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And so we're putting together the rest of everything to basically go after him for it.
Did you actually have home insurance though?
I have home insurance that doesn't cover that stuff.
That's what I meant. Yeah. They're not reimbursing you. It's not in a claim. No, it's not a claim. No. Yeah. So I had it happen in my hammer story. That guy actually went to jail that night for his destruction. We ended up getting a judgment, but I think he's still in jail for something else. But yeah, it happens. Dion, don't take my red stapler. I guess that's a joke about your shirt, I guess.
Yes, for people that have a life and watch movies.
Okay. All right. I have no idea what that is.
Exactly.
Right.
It's Office Space.
Oh, don't know what that is. All right. Is that a movie or a show or what is it?
It's a movie.
It's okay. I don't get the sports ball references.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. All right, I'm trying to find some more.
And just like anything, I'm bridging kingdoms here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you're the smartest of the three amigos. You could go either way. It's really funny. That's pretty
Hey,
cool.
shut up with that.
Yeah,
Is
I
that never
realized
talking about it again?
I realized that came out wrong. This is the Three Amigos After Dark. Here's one that I've dealt with a lot. Billing for utilities when they're on 1 meter.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Deal breaker.
So yeah, it's now a deal breaker. So I've done this for over a decade. It works when it works, but most of the time it doesn't because one person wants to bitch and complain about the other one. So I still buy these configurations a lot.
Yeah.
But I will only rent to one family. It's typically multi-generational. I want one lease per meter. I don't give a rat's ass if there's 3 structures, 4 structures, 1 lease, 1 bill. I don't want utility bills. I'm not splitting on square footage, on number of people. Too much headache. I don't want it. Never again.
I built it into my make ready. It cost me about $5,000
to add a meter. Yeah.
Yep. Because you have to add a meter, add a panel.
Yep.
So there's some work there to be done, but it's I would say that and in New Hampshire usually we have to add what's called a tower with a socket with a socket head on it and all. Yeah, it's a bunch of technical stuff, but yeah. Yep.
There's a question from the Ramirez team. What percentage do you think it is fair to pay a property manager? Dion, you want to take a stab at that?
So when your portfolio is small and you're just starting out, you're not going to have a lot of leverage or negotiating power. So you're probably going to pay closer to 10%.
Yeah.
But you can negotiate things like tenant placement, tenant flip. Is it a full month's rent? Is it a half month's rent? Is it a flat rate fixed fee, which would be my preference. As your portfolio scales, you have some negotiating power. But the real answer is going to be just like what sets rents, area average rents. What sets property management fees, area average property management fees in your area. What are all of them kind of coming together to charge? Try to be better than average.
Yeah. For me, it's funny. So obviously I started at 10%. I don't pay anywhere close to that. I would tell you it's not about the percentage. For me, it's about the quality, right? I want a company that's investing. I want the owner to be an investor. Believe me, there are firms that come to me almost once a month begging for my business. I would be half their portfolio, and I'm like, nope. And they're offering stupid rates. I'm like, no, no, not about rate.
So while you're looking at the questions really quick, one of the reasons why I've avoided property management is the reviews I get from the investors I know.
Yes.
Every problem that they have is my property management did this with rent. They did this with screen. They did this. I don't hear tenant complaints from my fellow friend investors.
Yep.
So here's a what if. How do you handle an AC going out in the middle of a heat wave? House was only 78 degrees Fahrenheit, but tenant's mother called and demanded we buy a tenant personal AC units and put them in a hotel. I didn't. Okay. Well, go to you. I guess Matt. No, don't deal with that headache.
No.
Dion.
Well, so what we have done is, we have put, so we have a couple of, we have 15 emergency space heaters, oil-based space heaters, and we have a couple
for
emergency,
cold.
a couple emergency air conditioners. So we would provide that for them. However, stay in a hotel, absolutely not. Dream on. Put one in every room. Nope, absolutely not. Dream on. And we would just show them the process, because if they want to be sticklers and bring me to court over it, I'll show the judge, here's my timeline for phone calls. Here's who I talk to. And you can go right down, and the judge is not unreasonable. They're not like, well, you can't get somebody out there to repair it in 3 hours. It's a heat wave. You're going to have to wait like everybody else. Wait your turn. Don't.
Yeah. Dion, any thoughts on that, Dion?
Well, I don't live in Siberia, so I don't have to worry about the heat stuff.
Yeah. Oil-based heaters. What the hell is that,
bro?
And
the 10-degree difference.
In Washington, nobody knows what a swamp cooler is. Very few people that rent have air conditioning. Some will have the window units that get used maybe 4 days a year. We made it to June. It was June before we had 5 days above 76 degrees. So air conditioning is not a problem here.
Yeah. I invest in Fresno where it gets hot. August, like most days are over 100. So yeah, I think we have 5 emergency room ACs. Like if somebody called in and went out in the middle of the night, it is health and safety, right? We're not talking 78. We're probably in the 80s. It's a health and safety. So we take that stuff seriously.
What's that number? What's that number there?
What do you mean?
Above, so health and safety.
I think it's 85. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was 85. I think, but there is a number, but we take it all seriously. Again, it's just August is just freaking unbearably hot. So we do have these portable ACs we will use immediately, dispatch at night. We have an emergency number. I'm trying to think, did we ever put anybody in a hotel? I think we did one time. It was a roof mount AC, $8,000, needed to rent a crane, 2 elderly folks. So we did put somebody in a hotel once. That was like 8 years ago, I think, but yeah, we did do it once that I think. Yeah. Keep looking through the questions. We're asking HELOC questions. That's not this conversation. Keep going. Oh, how would you guys handle rent control laws? Want to talk about that? Live free or die, Matt?
They New Hampshire will never do that ever. It's on the ballot every year and it gets decimated every year. And if federal did it, then the state of New Hampshire would likely file immediately, and they wouldn't be able to make it like we're implementing it now and it starts today.
Yeah.
And so they would end up, the Texas, Florida, New Hampshire would all bring them to court in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It takes away state sovereignty.
What I recommend is knowing your state's local laws, because a lot of people think, oh, there's rent control, I can only raise it this much. Is it an owner-occupied small multifamily? Because then that entire property is exempt in some areas, like my friend who invests in Oregon. Yeah. Is it single-family house? Is it multifamily? That's what I would watch. Is it's not just blanket, here's rent control. A lot of times it's new builds don't get impacted for 5 years. So that knowing what's actually being impacted. So here's what would change in Washington if rent control happened. The binder strategy would be less impactful on a large portfolio, unless you were house hacking and you knew your local laws. My poor tenants, instead of getting a 5% every other year increase, other than 2021 when we had the pandemic stuff, they asked for much more. Instead of 5% every other year, they would get the maximum every single year forced by the government. So it would be probably at least 10%.
Yeah, that's what happened in California. They implemented our king of California implemented rent control. So I used to give rents every other year. Now it's every year or it's a problem. So King Newsom, there you go. Millennial Mike wants to ask Dion a question. You called for lower rates heading into the end of the year. Have you started to flex on Matt and I?
I don't know. I think the coin teeters sometimes. I still think I called it a bit soon. I don't see Fed dropping it enough to get, because they got a 4 on the front,
Not a 3 though.
but and I'm looking for like a 3.5. So if it hits 3.9, 3.8, I still send $1.
Yeah,
But if it gets close to 3.5,
I'll happily if rates get to 3.75, I'll pay. That's fine. We'll call it
so we'll
3.75.
split it right there. Yep, above
you
that
go.
or below that.
Do I hear Mike asking if you can get on the bet on Dion's side?
No,
No, I thought
No, the other Mike, Millennial Mike.
no,
Yeah, no,
millennial
that's
Mike.
that's what I thought. I thought
No.
I thought Millennial Mike wanted to get in and take
No.
up your side. So he wants to put $2 on the line against you and Mizu.
Ooh,
No, I
don't know.
think he just wants to protect his ex-cop buddy. And
Yeah,
That's
no,
what he's doing.
I'm just trying to take his dollar, Mike.
yeah, I know you are. You all have guns. I'm not playing for a
Two
dollar.
would look better hanging back there, Matt, than one, right?
You all got guns. I'm not playing. I just
There's
keep
only
the dollar.
9 in this room.
There's only 9 in this room.
I was gonna say, Dion, I think you got me beat. I've got 5.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah,
Did you see
Ah.
what happened when I emptied my desk out at work?
I
Mike?
did see that. Yeah.
that
Okay,
was
good.
awesome.
Yeah. What I want to know is why'd you have a sword? It looked like a sword.
Because you can't
Oh,
hide
that's
it.
here. That's the angel blade from Supernatural.
Whatever.
I have-
You don't watch movies and shows, so
I have a claymore.
Nice. Yes.
It's a
Pull
Mel
pin
Gibson
for
film
help.
from Brave Fight.
Okay. All right. I don't know how to react to that, so we'll just keep going. So So lots
Who
of talk
doesn't have
about
a
China.
sword in their office? Wait, dude, really?
Nope, no sword.
No.
I should have planted one.
Yeah, well, I take gifts if you really want.
Okay.
When self-managing, do you include gardening maintenance or do you put that on the tenant?
Gardening maintenance,
Like
No.
for you, it'd be snow
lawn, yes.
or
So,
lawn.
no,
lawn,
so
lawn.
we
yeah.
have lawns here, guys.
No, you don't. Don't they get frozen away? And it's like dirt.
Turkeys. Yeah, we have lawns here. So we have lawns 3 seasons. We have snow 1 season. And so, yes,
Okay.
so we include lawn mowing, we include weed whacking and trimming and that sort of stuff. If there's like a garden where there's like food or vegetables or no, we allow that actually.
Yeah.
We have a number of tenants that have little mini gardens at the
Yeah,
place. We
I've had a
love that.
couple.
We fully, in fact, we actually pay to put those in for them.
Oh,
We
wow.
would do- yeah, we
I don't do that, but
yeah,
I,
we are all about that.
I
I
let
mean,
them do
literally, it's about $500 worth of wood and labor, and we're happy to do it. We know it looks good, it looks right, it's well done.
they're going
and
to
then
stay
we can-
longer. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely happy to do it.
Good idea.
So, having grown up with a family that owns residential tree services, my leases have the 8-foot rule. As long as the yards are clearly delineated where this is your fenced off area, or it's very obvious that this is your section, tenants are responsible for everything 8 feet or lower. So they do any gardening, they do any lawn, they do any, shrub maintenance or anything like that. 8 feet or higher, that's me.
Yeah.
My fourplex isn't clearly separated. So I have a service for about $200 a month that goes
Yeah.
and does the lawn.
Yeah.
But the tenants take care of their little section in front of their doors.
Yeah.
Like the flowers.
Yeah, for me is if it's clearly delineated, I put it on the tenant. If it's not, if it's a fourplex 10, 18 or 20, it's on me. And I don't have snow, thankfully. I have heat, but I don't it gets hot in the summer, but no snow. Millennial Mike says he's only got 4 in the room. So he's in 3rd place. You got 9, you got 5 and 4.
I've
People
seen
that I hang
Millennial
out
Mike-
with.
I've seen Millennial Mike shoot. He only needs 1.
Yeah, that's right.
He was drawing smiley faces at like 30 feet. I was like, I could do that at 10. But
Yeah, well,
It's awesome.
well, SWAT rolls hard. That's all I got to say.
It does.
Let's see. Claymore's the biggest flex.
It is. It is
How
the
did this
biggest
turn into
flex.
the gun show? I mean, come on. Yeah, and I'm living in meditation and Zen state.
Oh,
That's
it's a
not
small arm show here.
I think you forgot to load it.
I got my
Right.
50 cows. No.
And this is why we only put out those 10 to 15 minute
Yeah,
videos.
'cause we're joking
It
between them.
Yeah, you want to see what happens after live shows, everybody? This is it.
right
This is
here.
the problem. And then
All
Mike's
right.
like, I got to get out of here.
Right.
I got to go buy a gun or 5 of them or something. All right. So I think I've actually gotten through all the questions. This has been a lot of fun. So let's wrap this up. Dion, first, where can people find you? If they're not following you, they need to be. But is self-management worth it, in your opinion? Just bring us home.
There are, like having an LLC, there are reasons why having one would make sense. A property manager is the same. If you don't have a backbone to stick to a lease, to charge a tenant a late fee, to evict them, to hold them to the written word of the lease, have a property manager. If it's at a distance in a market that you don't know and don't have boots on the ground, have a property manager. But if you like money,
if you like money
and control, I honestly don't see me ever having property management.
where's the mic? I need to drop it.
Right.
Thud. Mic drop. If you like money.
Yeah. Don't drop that mic. I don't want to come fix it.
Yeah.
All right. And then where they can find you, sorry.
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Awesome. And Matt, bring us home. Same questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think from a property management perspective, you're not going to learn nearly as fast. And for me, it was all about expertise. And eventually, maybe someday we'll do property management. I will start a company, or I will put people in place that will manage it with my processes. I think the key is that you don't know what you don't know. And if you want to become elite in that area, you have to learn it. You have to do the work. There's no shortcut. It's just like finding a deal. It's just like anything else. You have to do it, get practice, work the muscle, get good at it. And you'll find that it will save you money every single year. It's also a way to accelerate your growth. No. If I had to pay for a property manager every single one of those years, now the sacrifice is time. That is a sacrifice. It just is what it is. But for me, I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife when I started. And so it was more worth it to me to put that time in, to learn, to accelerate my strategy. It was far more worth it to me to take that approach. And that's why I did.
Yeah. So kind of bringing this home for me, I think self-management, if it's within driving distance, I think we've generally agreed an hour is enough. I think there's a lot of upside, obviously money, as Dion correctly said, but I also think there's lessons learned. Make sure you like it. Nobody's going to do it like you. I think there's a lot of upside to self-management. I do think today layering in some technology or apps to help, whether in Dion's case, it's Hemlane, and Matt, you're using Doorloop.
Doorloop, yeah.
Yep. So, and there are others, right?
Yep, sure.
I think that's helpful. That's something I didn't have when I started 20 years ago. They didn't exist. We were literally doing faxes for, and if you're as young as Millennial Mike, you may not know what a fax is. It's just this is piece of paper, it makes a sound. Anyways, I do think there's a lot of upside, but I also think the downside is time. Even if I had lived in Fresno, we just moved, I snapped my fingers and home was Fresno versus Mountain View. Given the job I had, I don't think we could have made it work. I don't think we could have, maybe, but it certainly wouldn't work 2.5 hours away. And because again, what did I do? I found a market that worked and then I built around it. I didn't know Fresno. I didn't know people. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I think self-management is an option. I think a lot more people self-manage. When I look at the numbers, mom and pop landlords, roughly 68 to 72% self-manage. So clearly it is very common. So yeah, I think there's a lot of right ways to do it. Don't get yourself in trouble. And then Matt, where can they find you? I don't think you said.
Yeah, Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and on Instagram, as well as my 3-hour live stream on Sundays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
All right, guys, you two stay here. I'm going to go hopefully turn off the YouTube and then come back to just us on Zoom. We'll see. It started okay. Let's see if I can close this thing correctly.
If it gets it wrong, don't sue us for what we say after we think it's not recording anymore.
Exactly. The jokes are coming. Here we go. Let's see.
That was not a joke. Don't sue us.
Yeah. All right, so that's gone.